So Richard, really glad to finally catch up with you. Just a little bit of background. I met Richard at one of the airline conferences where he was speaking to airlines how to become a better retailers. And this is one topic that during travel we try to cover quite extensively. So I was really curious and happy to talk to Richard. So maybe Richard, the first thing before we start, just a little bit about the background, your background, what you do.
Absolutely. So I'm a retail expert. I've been a retailer for 33 years now. And I've always been obsessed during that time with understanding customers' motivations, why they do the things that they do. And kind of as part of that obsession, I've consulted for the last 18 years now, solving retail problems, and anything from creation of new formats to solving specific problems to understanding customer attitudinal change. And one of the particular things we look at now is understanding why customers make the choices they make. Why would they choose airline A over airline B, or OTA A over OTA B? And I'm also the author of a thing called Smart Retail, which is one of the world's best-selling retail how-tos of all time. It's in 20-odd languages, sells all over the world. It's in its 4th edition, and available at all good bookshops.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, certainly. I mean, the book about retailing is. I just browsed through it, not read it completely, but it's very interesting. One of the things that you mentioned in the chat in your talk for the airlines was that one of the things that changed lately in retail is that now customers are in control. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
This is the most critical point for your readers and viewers, is that we used to have, on the vendor side, we used to have a modicum of control over the relationship with our customers, in that quite often, although there might be a couple of options, customers might have 2 or 3 things they could choose from, or 2 or 3 alternative vendors. They tend to be very narrow, and so we could dictate a little bit. What's changed across all consumer and business to customer industries is that customers now have 2 things. They have incredible visibility of choice. So customers can now see their range of options, not just the ones that are immediately in front of them, but across the entire planet if they want to. And the same goes for the travel industry, that a traveller in the UK or the US or anywhere in Europe, they can see 24 ways of solving whatever problem it is they're trying to solve with travel. And that problem, when I say problem, that can be as basic as how to get off on my holiday. It could be how to get to a business meeting, how to get to a family event. So problem's not always a bad thing. So we have massive visibility of choice, but at the same time, we've also gained incredibly easy, safe access to those choices. So I can, as somebody in the UK, I can safely book a ticket with a Hungarian airline from my seat right now, with an airline in China, with an airline in the US. And not very many years ago, that simply wasn't possible. I could only book with those airlines that had invested in putting resource into the UK. Now that's all changed. That's dramatic, because what it means is that in your industry, as every other industry with customers, the customer is now completely in charge. And we're seeing those vendors that embrace that, they're seeing success. And those vendors that aren't understanding that it's the customer that's in charge now, those vendors are struggling.
Okay, I see. One of the concepts that you, let's say, developed and you also explain in your book is the frictional reward concept.
Yeah, that's the biggie for us at the moment, is that having seen through this change, so now we know that customers are in charge of the relationship. I was incredibly desperate to see if, as retailers, if we could find a metric, as vendors, a metric that could be used to describe likely customer behaviours. So if I know that customers are now in charge, and if I know that customers have unlimited choice, do I have a tool that allows me to predict that a customer in this situation, with this set of emotional need states, is this customer going to buy from me, or from them, or from somebody else? because the truth is we haven't had a metric to be able to understand that in the past. We've had things like Net Promoter Score, customer effort score, customer satisfaction, persona segmentation, attitudinal mapping, and to a certain extent customer journey mapping, all of which tell us part of the story. So they might tell us whether or not somebody's happy with us as a business. They won't tell us whether that happiness turns into X or Y. We might be able to identify where the pain points are in our customer journeys and our friction points are. That's very important, but we don't know the value of those friction points until we know the value of the reward that customers gain from shopping with us in a particular way. So what I was looking for was a metric that could describe this situation, that a retailer or an airline or a government even could use to accurately understand, given this set of circumstances, is the customer going to go this way or this way? Are they going to open my app or somebody else's app? Are they going to look at my site first or somebody else's site first? So we couldn't find one, didn't exist. So we invented one. And we invented one based on Danny Kahneman's thinking around the process of two-system decision-making. If any of your readers have not read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, I would urge them to order it immediately. It's a transformative book for anybody who deals with customers. The book itself isn't a marketing book, but as soon as you read it, you'll recognise within there the elements that help us make decisions as customers. And broadly speaking, all customers, we have kind of two things that are floating around in our brains when we're looking at a given way of solving a particular problem, a particular retail problem, which is, on the one side, how much effort do I need to put in? And on the other side, what do I get for putting that effort in? Now, we call that, the effort in is friction. So what frictions do I have to push through to buy my ticket and my package from X, versus what do I get back from doing so? What are the rewards? And rewards aren't just reward scheme points, that kind of thing, although that's part of it. It's, is this an airline that matches my social profile? Is this an option that matches how I feel about pollution and environmental issues? Does this brand deliver on the trust that I put into it? Do they help me get a better journey experience? Do they help me to have better experiences when I travel? So, and there's about 30 of those variables on each side. So the kind of sum of friction versus reward, basically, it's a metric that you can use as a vendor to predict whether a customer is going to buy from you or buy from your rival in a given customer mission with a given set of need states. It's incredibly, insanely powerful, and retailers and vendors and airlines can use it to truly understand where to make investments in the customer experience, where the gold is for them.
If I'm not mistaken, you had an example of Ryanair friction reward in your book, yeah?
Ryanair's an interesting example, and I felt I was guilty of this conference we did last week, because I talked about Ryanair in two ways. I talked about them in a positive way, but I also had to talk about the current challenge. Yeah. The positive way is that when Ryanair reduced the friction inherent in their website and their web booking from 15 clicks to buy a ticket to 3 clicks, it transformed the performance of their web booking system, and customers started to say, well, actually, I'm quite happy to go to Ryanair's website first now, because I know the price will be right, and I know it'll be 2 or 3 clicks, and I've got my ticket to wherever I want to go. And the way that Ryanair did that was really interesting, because they didn't just reduce friction, they actually changed the way that people perceived what you in the industry, of course, call ancillaries. The way that people perceived the insurance, the choosing of the seat, the hold luggage, car hire, and so on. In the past, in the old 15 clicks model, you at every stage were stopped. Have you got insurance? Oh, I just want to get past. Have you got insurance? Oh, click, it's out of the way. Have you? Oh, and so all these clicks until you finally got the thing you wanted, a ticket, meant that you felt, very frustrated with the process. When Ryanair had budget airlines as a sector to itself in Europe, it could do that. It could be the airline that put lots of friction in a customer's way because the customer wanted the reward, which in this case was very low airfare tickets and the ability to travel to places they hadn't been able to travel to before. Customers were prepared to push through all that friction to get to that reward. As soon as that air sector becomes as competitive as it is now, any other alternative vendor who lowers the friction level but has the same kind of reward at the end of it, a good cheap ticket to a place you want to go, then customers will go to the lower friction option. Ryanair recognised that, made a big change. Now, the sting in the tail, and this is why I felt guilty, because there were Ryanair people in the audience, but we talked afterwards, and it was very interesting. One of the measures on both sides of the equation is trust. That a customer needs to trust that the vendor they're choosing will deliver the thing they want. Equally, on the reward side, a vendor that delivers against trust, that meets expectations, that gives people what they thought they were going to get, that's a powerful part of the reward side attraction. So the fact that Ryanair are now cancelling lots of flights has lowered that trust level on the friction side dramatically. So now you've got customers saying, well, Ryanair cancelled 20,000 flights last year. They've cancelled 17,000 flights so far this year. How low is my trust? So how cheap a price ticket, frankly, if price is my biggest reward on that side, how cheap does that ticket need to be now for these two things to balance? And there's a direct correlation between falling trust and having to give a better price to those customers to persuade them that this level of trust is worth risking. So that's a very straightforward example in your industry of how understanding what a customer has to go through, the friction, and what a customer gets, the reward, are intrinsically connected together. And our approach, the friction versus reward metric, is the only way that vendors can make that connection. It's, as I say, it's an extremely powerful way of looking at customer experience.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned before is ancillaries, yeah, because our industry now is basically, it's going through it that like Ryanair and other low-costers unbundle the product and then made airlines to be better at upselling, cross-selling, what we call so-called retailing. And one of the things we talked at the conference is how the whole ancillary world is wrong. Can you tell us a little bit, how do you think can airlines use this additional product, and how should they call them instead of ancillaries?
So if airlines want to only be the provider of transport, then by all means stick to the word as ancillaries. If airlines believe that all they're selling is a ticket from A to B, then ancillaries make sense. But actually, if you are only selling a ticket to go from A to B, that really narrows your ability to influence whether a customer wants to choose you to solve their particular travel challenge or not. Because what a customer's considering is not how do I get from A to B. The customer's considering how do I get the best experience in a given situation. If I'm flying for business, how do I get to a great hotel? How do I get my transfers so that I'm not late for my meeting? How do I get my boss to sign off against the cost? How do I account for all this? How do I work when I'm on the plane? If we're traveling for a wedding in Spain, I'm traveling from the UK to a wedding in Spain. In fact, I'm flying tomorrow morning for my 10th anniversary with my partner Emily. We're flying to Copenhagen. And for our flight isn't the bit that connects us with London and Copenhagen. Our flight is the start of our holiday. It's the start of a very narrow 3 days together of incredibly precious time where we want to absolutely maximize that. So for example, if such a thing were available, we would buy 3 seats together and have the middle seat have a picnic hamper on it. We would do that because it's part of our holiday, it's part of the thing that's happening for us. Now, if you think about those things as an ancillary, something that sits outside of the A to B part of it, then you have no chance of influencing our decision to engage in those things with you. So for example, I bought my lounge access tomorrow, so we're flying EasyJet. I bought lounge access tomorrow so that we can sit and have a drink before we get off. In fact, I've got a priority pass card, which is kind of used to. But I noticed, as I clicked through the EasyJet booking process, that they did offer the lounge that I'm going to use at a price that's cheaper than my guest access price for Emily. And I would have bought it from EasyJet, but it was offered as such a, frankly, as a pathetic kind of, it's over here in the side, and it's just a little thing that's an afterthought. So I actually went through a slightly more complex process of booking my priority security and parking and so on and all that stuff separately. As a customer, I don't want to be doing that. My time is incredibly precious, and actually all customers believe, rightly, that their time is incredibly precious now. It doesn't matter what that customer's job is, what their home life is, time, if you're able to give them back time, then you are giving them back nuggets of gold. And customers will pay you for that. So this ancillary thing is interesting to me. I wouldn't call ancillaries at all. I would just call the whole thing product. I would call the whole thing our products. And one of our products is a seat in an airplane, but they all have equal value to each other. They all have equal profile and precedence. And because then you can start saying, well, what do we sell? We sell this range of products. Yes, some of them are more difficult for us to fulfill than others. Some of them involve filling a great big monster of a machine with volatile aviation fuel and physically sending it to another continent. And other things are just being able to have the logistics ready to put a meal in front of somebody. There's different bits there, but they're all things that are part of the customer experience. And so they're all things that make up the totality of what it is you're selling.
And one thing that you mentioned before and also in your talk, and I think is especially relevant when it comes to ancillaries, is that you shouldn't just sell product, but you sell or show the experience and feelings when it comes to it. And especially I think this is a lot of where we as an airline industry fail to do that. Like you said, we sell seats or lounge or security as an add-on, not the experience or the value-added thing that this product actually will bring, yeah?
Yes, sell me a package, because I'll pay what I believe the package is worth. And when I say I mean customers in general. But at the moment, because everything is so finely broken down, so granularly broken down, lots of customers, not all, but lots of customers can't help themselves from saying, okay, can I save £2 with another vendor for that bit? Can I save £1? And it all focuses on price. Whereas you can be saying, here's X package, here's Y package, here's Z package. With modern marketing communications abilities, you can tailor those packages and personalize those packages to every customer that you potentially want to deal with. You can talk to them in those terms. You can sell them things that solve the specific thing they're trying to achieve, which is not, I want to go to an airport and sit on an airplane and go to another airport. Nobody's doing that. That core thing, nobody in the industry is going to an airport apart from some crazy high-value points flyers, which I know is a whole other complete world. But nobody's going to an airport to get on an airplane to go to another airport. They're going to see friends. They're going to see the world. They're going to expand their horizons. They're going back home to their family. They're going to see long-lost relatives. They're going for opportunities to explore jobs. They're going for meetings. They're going for experiences. You can sell either the seat on the airplane, which nobody really cares about in that way, or you can be the enabler of those experiences. And that's where, now that customers are in charge, that's where the gold is in this area. And it's something I found very interesting from that conference we were at last week, is that I'm not affiliated with OpenJaw, who were the sponsors of the conference, but it was fascinating to see people like OpenJaw creating such extraordinary suites of technology that in other industries, retailers themselves are having to create. OpenJaw are putting those tools into airlines' hands and into travel agents' hands and into third parties' hands in a way that enables those companies to do what I just talked about. So the opportunity is right there, and there are people really investing in making it possible. And I find myself, when I'm in those situations, thinking, I feel a bit envious of the people in this industry having these things at their disposal, these opportunities, because you could do really transformative things in airlines right now if your readers want to.
Okay, and but one of the things I think when it comes to airlines and retailing is the change in the mindset, because I think it's most of the airlines were still very operational, getting you from point A to B, and really try to excel at operations. And
Yeah.
when we do the, let's say, the e-commerce research and benchmarks, the conversion optimization, but also how good are the airlines or what we call digital merchandising, we see that sometimes this mindset and this history, the legacy, is what's bringing us, holding us back, because it prevents experimenting and also innovation. So, what do you think is the main thing? How to change this mindset to become a better retailer?
Yeah, you've got two really, really tough challenges in there, and that shouldn't be underestimated. One is that if you're only about the journey part of the equation, then the number of ways in which you can be measured successful by a customer are very narrow. So if all of your eggs are in the put somebody on an airplane, take them from A to B, take them off an airplane basket, then the customer is only going to judge you on punctuality, price, on safety, on whether or not the seat was comfortable, and felt like good value. You've got very narrow criteria to be judged on. So that's the first thing, is understanding that there is a big opportunity with changing your mindset here, is that if you look at being a provider of the experience and a facilitator of the things that people want to do that also involves a flight, if you become that facilitator, suddenly customers are judging you on, did they feel great? Did they have the wonderful experience they wanted to have? Did you make their life easy? Did you deliver against that promise? Did you, did you whisk them off their feet? It's an opportunity to be the whole romance rather than just the dinner date in the middle of it. But when it comes to changing mindset, of course, I know a number of your readers will be looking at this now and saying, well, yeah, that's all very well for Richard and Dig and Travel to say, but the challenge is that we're a highly regulated industry. So we've got lots of government and lots of civil codes that we have to meet, and safety rightly has to be our number one priority. Completely get that. But what happens when you only focus on meeting the regulatory minimums is that then becomes your universal opportunity. There is a parallel here, and the parallel is the fuel forecourt industry, so garages, petrol stations, gas stations. Gas stations are highly regulated. There are huge safety issues that relate to putting extremely volatile, explosive fuel from a tank in the ground into an old deer's car on a forecourt. The steps in between those two things are nightmarishly full of opportunities to cause a devastating explosion. And yet, that industry has been able to say, but if we're just about putting fuel in people's cars, that's a tiny bit of the story. We can take this opportunity for people breaking their journeys to give them the things they need to have a great day. So we can give them a great coffee. We can help them buy their dinner to take home on the way home. We can put breakfast in front of them so they start their business day in the best possible way. We can sell them their groceries so they don't have to do another journey. We can give them a treat if they're down. We can give them the energy to complete that journey. And you've got some fantastically successful forecourt retailers. BP with Marks and Spencer's in the UK are particularly good. You've got Albert Heijn to go in Holland and partly in Germany. Fantastic examples of understanding how to totally transform the mindset from being a fuel delivery system to a retailer. That's a place where I would look if I were in the airline industry, is I'd be looking at how you create those fabulous journeys, how you become part of enabling somebody's opportunity to spread their wings, to have a great day, to have a great travel experience. Changing that mindset, though, it requires something very specific to happen, which is very straightforward. Airlines need to hire retailers. You need to have retailers that's in senior positions, helping drive that change of culture, helping drive that opportunity. And you need to have that because they have been there and solved the problems that you're looking to solve anew. And the great thing is that there's another parallel here, actually, incidentally, where some of my best experiences as a retail consultant have been in places like Kazakhstan, I've been in Russia, where you have retailers there who are prepared to say, actually, we're going to put our egos to one side. You are a retailer in a more mature marketplace with lots of successful examples of the thing that we want to do. So come and tell us how to do it. Can we be part of delivering that into our culture and our context? And that's transformative. But who looks good at the end of that? Is it the consultant or is it the retail business that's suddenly more successful? It's the retail business. So airlines can only win from putting retailers into that mix.
Okay, yeah, and I see the roles, the new roles, let's say so-called retail roles or the merchandiser roles are starting to appear even within the more advanced airlines. So yeah, those are great insights, Richard. Thank you so much. Can you tell lastly a little bit to our readers and people who will watch this interview where they can find more about you and about your work?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to understand more about friction versus reward, have a look at our website. And I didn't mean to wear this t-shirt today, but this is the company, uncrowd.uk. So uncrowd.uk, you'll see lots of our theory there, there's some resources there. I'm just finishing a new book called Friction versus Reward, How Customers Choose You Instead of Your Rival. That's been published by Pearson probably in January, and that will be quite helpful. In fact, you'll see that in W. Smith travel outlets in airports across the world. Then there's already a great order for that. And you can also buy the 4th edition of Smart Retail, my current book, from all good retailers, from Amazon, from W. Smith Travel again, another company with decent stocks. But yeah, some of my theories in there. Frictional Reward is in the Smart Retail book, but the new book really expands on this. And I'd love to hear from people in this industry because I think you've got an amazing opportunity to transform your relationship with customers.
Yeah, I would definitely say better to read the websites from your t-shirt than to try to Google your name. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I wish I'd used a pen name for the book. But, it was 15 years ago, the first edition, and he wasn't as famous then. Great.
Thank you so much, Richard, and it was really great talking to you. Yeah?
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on. It's been really interesting to go through these questions with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.